Alright guys, today I'm going to be teaching y'all a very simple recipe for cookies. I'm sure most people have their own, but it's a basic recipe. So first off, you're going to want a room temperature egg and a room temperature stick and a half of butter. Also, you're going to want some cornstarch, baking soda, chocolate chips, or whatever toppings you're wanting, like M&Ms, whatever. Ours is a mix of chocolate chips. You'll need sugar, flour, and light brown sugar. So for starters, we're going to crack our egg, plop it in there. Next, we're going to add our butter. As I said, about a stick and a half. And you want your butter and egg room temperature. So you're going to want to set it out before you actually do this. So, how much sugar are we putting in there, Spirit?
Half a cup.
Half a cup. And yes, I have a little R2-D2 measuring cup system that we use. I'm a nerd, guys.
Okay. And then we're going to want to go ahead and do this.
So we're going to fire her up. I'm guessing starting on a low speed.
Yeah, it's easier. That's another reason why you want it room temperature. It just makes beating it all together very easy. And you just want to go until it's all creamed together. And then you can start adding the rest of the ingredients.
So next we're going to add half a cup.
3/4 cup. Basically,
3/4 cup of light brown sugar.
Basically, for those, especially for those who just don't want to have to do all the special measuring, it's basically half a cup.
And then half a half, right?
Yeah. So it's kind of like
also,
an measurement.
For those of you who are new to baking, do not do what she's doing and just using just the half cup measurement. She's been baking a while, so she can eyeball this stuff. I'm not the baker in the family, she is. But she's good enough she can eyeball it. You definitely want to use your actual measuring utensils. And we're going to kick it up to a little higher speed. Start mixing it in.
Because creaming all that together really helps.
What are we doing next?
Lower that down.
Okay.
Okay, crack that open.
Also, I do recommend buying one of these mixers. It saves you a lot of trouble. It really does. And a lot of pain later down the road. I know it's technically the lazy man's way of doing things, but sometimes there's nothing wrong with that.
Alrighty.
So how much cornstarch are we putting in here?
Tablespoon. 1 tablespoon.
So 1 tablespoon of cornstarch.
And one little tip. Again, I eyeball a lot of this, but if you ever want to do it, you can, I'll just show y'all again. Do like this and then shake it. It's not going to be perfectly level, but it's going to be close enough to where it's going to work really well.
And again, if you're new to baking, you're going to want to do precise stuff because she's been doing it a while. And then this is baking soda, correct?
Yep, we're going to do 1 teaspoon. Fun fact, baking soda and baking powder are extremely similar leveling agents. So if ever you don't have baking soda, you can always use baking powder. You can always use baking soda, but it's 3 times more powerful than baking powder.
So you want to use less.
You want to use 1/3 the amount it tells you.
Okay.
So basically, if it calls for 1 tablespoon of baking powder, you use 1 teaspoon of baking soda. That's how powerful the difference is.
Okay, so 1/3 of whatever it calls for.
Yeah, and that's if you're substituting baking powder for baking soda and stuff like that. Or vice versa, if you don't have baking soda but you have baking powder, use 3 times more.
So what we got next?
Getting the salt.
Now, we use kosher for this. You don't got to get fancy.
And something for new bakers, I don't recommend this, but what I do is I basically just put a small bit in my hand. Again,
But as I said, if you're new, you're going to want to measure it. She's good enough, she can kind of eyeball it. She's done this recipe 1,000 times. How much vanilla are we using?
We are using 1 tablespoon.
Right, and I'm going to have to buy more because this will be almost the last of it. And then I'm guessing just mix it in.
Let's see. So all we're gonna need left is next thing is we're gonna go ahead and mix this in a little bit, get it all settled.
Okay.
Lock it in. Mix it up a little bit. And the next thing we gotta put in is our flour.
And how much flour?
2 cups.
2 cups of flour.
And one good thing to always do is put it in a little bit at a time.
Yeah. So that way you can incorporate and mix it in, right?
Yep. I'm doing, because I know how to, I've been doing this a little bit, I'm putting at least 1 cup of each. Like 1 cup. That was 2 of those, so that's 1 cup. I'm going to put in and then crack it. Very low speed. Let it incorporate. Then add in the next 2.
Okay.
And then as it gets a little bit incorporated.
So, I know you're not as big of an anime fanatic as I am, but what anime would you recommend to some of our viewers, Spirit?
Hard to say. There is a lot of ones that I like.
Because you just recently started getting into it a little while back.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some of the ones that I've watched. I will say there's a lot of, if you're like a lot of the random stuff, there is some isekais that are actually really good, like I'm a Spider, so what? I know you've watched this one a good bit, but The Time I Was Reincarnated, Slime is an isekai.
I recommended that one a little while back, yeah.
That one's pretty good. But I haven't fully been watching a lot of different animes frequently because I've just been extremely busy. But I recommend a lot of different ones, like ones that have good story, like good combination of
humor and story, more or less.
Yeah, like there's one that was actually pretty funny. It's more of a life-based one. It's called Toradora, which follows 2 high school type kids and just the life in between. That one's really actually funny.
It is actually. It's a really good slice of life.
Yeah. And then another funny one is Gintama.
Yes, Gintama is hilarious. But the thing about Gintama is I've always described it as it's Deadpool the anime.
Indeed.
Don't expect it to make too much sense, but it is hilarious if you're wanting a good laugh.
Yeah. But a lot of animes I like, if I was to watch animes, is I do prefer more of the...
You're more of the slice of life, isekai, and comedy.
Actually, I also like ones that are a bit darker in theme, like one that not a lot of people would really know about and follows darker themes is one called Hellgirl. And
another one in that same category is Angels of Death. It's actually really good.
Yeah.
As is the game for it. I've played it. It's a short game, but it's an enjoyable one.
Yeah. But overall, they're very good. The concepts themselves, very dark and depressing, but also, if you do the research on them, becomes very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're into darker stuff, I would recommend Hellgirl and Angels of Death. They're dark, but...
There's another one. That one is extremely dark. I'm going to probably mispronounce this because it's been a long while, but it's called... The English version is called... The English pronunciation is Where the Cicadas Cry. Long story short, there's a lot of violence and a lot of...
Yeah.
And such in it, but I can't pronounce the Japanese name for the life of me right now. That one takes in a lot of...
You're reading the Silmarillion right now, right?
Yes, Lord of the Rings. It is basically the beginning history of how the world of Lord of the Rings was formed, how the dwarves were formed, why things started the way they are. It's basically, in the simplistic terms I can say this, it is basically the Lord of the Rings lore's Bible. It is how everything started.
I'm actually currently reading the Tales of the Atori series. It's really good, especially if you like old Japanese samurai stories.
And speaking of that, there's also... I actually recently finished a book called Long Live the Pumpkin Queen. It is, in a way, a sequel to the Nightmare Before Christmas story, but it takes its own twists on it.
Which, in case y'all hadn't figured out, she's a big fan.
Aww.
She's a big fan of Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yes. So we've got this all incorporated.
About how many chocolate chips or toppings should you add?
Recipe calls for about 1.5 cups, but in this house, we eyeball this.
Yes. Also, for anyone who's interested in the Tales of the Atori series, the first book is called Across the Nightingale Floor.
Yeah.
It is really good.
Yeah. Oh, and to go into Lord of the Rings lore again, if you are a big Lord of the Rings fan, a recent book that I got that I haven't read yet, but I can't wait to.
Yeah, I got it for her birthday, Fall of Numenor.
Yeah, the Fall of Numenor. It basically is the history of...
And about how many of these?
As I said before, the recipe calls for 1.5 cups, but as I stated, in this house, we eyeball this. So you just go till it feels right.
Yeah.
You're blocking the light a little bit, honey.
I am sorry. I'm messing up all day today.
No, you're not. Just want to make sure everybody can see clearly.
Yeah. Lighting's not that great. And then I'm guessing again, start slow and it'll pick up the pace a little bit.
You just want a quick mix.
Quick mix? Okay. Just at a slow speed?
Yep. Because all you want is to just mix that all together. And that is the batter.
That is the dough. So give us a minute to clean up and we'll start putting them in the cooker. Alright guys, we're back and we're fixing to put them in. Now you may notice I don't have an oven. I have an air fryer. So we're going to cook these in the air fryer, but she will explain to y'all how to do it in the oven too. So y'all can kind of get an idea, but we do them in the air fryer for a couple reasons. We do have an oven, but we prefer it this way.
Yeah.
We've learned that an air fryer is your best friend. It can cook nearly anything.
Yeah. Basically, with a air fryer, if you don't have an oven or if you want to make some cookies quick, air fryer works really well. In fact, it works pretty much identically to an oven. All you really want to do with the air fryer, especially since our basket here has holes on the bottom, which means your batter will seep through and get stuck there. You basically just want to put some aluminum foil down in the bottom, spray, very quick bout of spray, and then just put a few dollops of your cookies in there.
So she's using a spoon, but you can do other stuff, like an ice cream scoop is something a lot of people will recommend to you.
Yeah, one thing about this batter, especially since the butter was very loose, or room temperature when we started, the dough is very loose. It's not like your typical store-bought pre-made cookie dough. So, it's always good to adjust your utensil based on that.
True. And for the oil we're using, it is canola oil Great Value. Because, in all honesty, Great Value is as good as name brand, if not a little better, in my mind. It saves you money, too, so, that's always a good thing.
Yeah, we're going to do about, considering these are going to spread because of how warm the butter is, I'm only going to do 3 in here per the moment. So if you need a lot of cookies quickly,
an oven is your better bet. But we have time tonight because we're off work today. So we can take our time cooking tonight.
So once you get all your cookies in here, you just pop them in. And then temperatures on an air fryer a lot of times will vary. Like mine does in variance of 10. So you're just going to want to go about 350 for your safe temperature. And then on this particular model, more specifically, set it for about 10 minutes. And then you're just going to want to keep an eye on it because it will cook quicker than than you think. So we'll get to see how these look when they're done.
All right. So, Spirit, you've been playing today because, as I mentioned, today's our day off, and so was yesterday. You've been playing Monster Hunter Ultimate 3, correct?
Yes, Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate. First iteration of the game came out on the Wii as Monster Hunter 3, or I think 3 Ultimate was the same version that came out on the Wii. The version I'm playing is the 3DS version, or DS version. I can't remember exactly which.
I think it's a DS.
Yeah, it's a DS. It is currently the game I've been playing. So what do you want to know about it?
Well, can you tell us a little bit about the game, lore, etc.? Just a little bit while we wait?
To go into the game lore, well, to be completely honest, will take a long, long time.
Alright, well then how about some recommendations for some people that might be interested in getting into Monster Hunter?
If you're just starting to get into Monster Hunter, in all honesty, if you did not grow up in the 90s, if you were not born in 1980s to the early 1990s, I will be completely honest, if you're interested in Monster Hunter, your best bet will be to start out with the game Monster Hunter World. Simply because...
Like most 90 games, the older ones are more grindy, right?
Yes, and that is being completely honest. If you if you were not born in that era and you are not used to 90s style games where you have to grind and do stuff, the older style Monster Hunters will inevitably drive you up the wall because their hitboxes, the percentages of actually getting items to upgrade your weapons and armor and other stuff to get through the game further, takes a long time. To give you an idea, I'm currently trying to upgrade one of the hammers I'm doing. It does lightning damage on top of physical damage.
Which, if I'm correct, you did technically get the part you needed the other day, but you accidentally sold it, and you've been spending since yesterday to currently, a few minutes ago, trying to get it again.
Yes.
Because the drop rate's what, 1%?
Yes, and that is how hard it is to get. The item that is...
And you're just trying to get the weapon to a +1, right?
It doesn't... The weapon system doesn't fully work like that. It starts out with like a base weapon, and then as you go through the different monsters, you use different parts of the monster that you get. Like there's scales, hide, plate. It's all monster based depending on the monster. It's a whole lore in of itself in a world. So, like I said, it's really hard to explain without going into a whole nother video. But to give it, the monster I'm specifically hunting was known as Legiacris. It's basically a giant electric crocodile serpent that can both swim as well as a sea serpent, and both on land and in sea.
And in the older games, fighting in the water was less than pleasant.
Yes, that is one other thing about this game, is that there is water mechanics, meaning you have to sometimes go into the water to fight these monsters, and the camera and the controls very easily can be as frustrating as the amount of times you have to hit the monster in order to kill it. But to go back to the piece I was talking about, the piece I was trying to get was known as the Legiacris plate. It is a higher grade item needed to upgrade your weapons. And the drop rate, as you stated, is 1%. Now luckily, I did a version of a mission which apparently must have increased the odds of getting it. But, like you said, it ended up selling it. I ended up selling it by accident. And now I'm going to have to fight the same monster over and over and over again in hopes that it will drop. Meaning, and this is where it gets infuriating, is that you have to fight the monster, break every single part that is breakable on the monsters. Because in the Monster Hunter games, you can break items. You can break their horns, their wings, their claws, their chest plates. And by doing so, you have a chance of a better item dropping. And in doing that multiple times over, you have a 1% chance of that item dropping. But the lore in that game in the games itself, is quite amazing if you delve into it. Legiacris is a lower grade water monster. Other stuff.
Let's go ahead and check the cookies real quick.
Okay.
We'll get back to it in a minute. So how are we looking?
They still have a little longer to go. They're light brown. They're puffing up and such. They gotta go for a few more minutes.
Okay. So, I can kind of relate to what you're saying because I've been playing for the last 2 days, which is one of my main go-tos, Dragon Ball Xenoverse. And in a lot of ways, the missions require you to do them over and over again to get certain skills, abilities, or armor pieces.
Yeah.
So I can slightly understand. But plus, I also come from the 90s era, so I've played those kinds of games.
Yeah. In all honesty, the best modern day game that I can equate to difficulty to a lot of 90s games that require you to grind and such is the modern day Dark Souls, Elden Ring, Sekiro.
They're about as close as you get, actually.
And that's simply because you have to sometimes fight the same boss over and over and over again. And it's not easy.
No. But yeah, no. I've actually, like I said, been spending the last 2 days playing Xenoverse, which has been a blast. I've gotten really far in one of my characters. I just recently made it to the end of the Android Cell Saga. So,
I've been doing studies on the Dark Souls lore and other such stuff. Highly recommend all those games despite the difficulty. They are beautiful worlds and lore in of themselves. Monster
you have to dig for it a little bit, but
yeah, anything by the Dark Souls realms, Bloodborne, Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3, Sekiro, Elden Ring, the lore is never shown in front of you.
You have to dig for it. I remember that much because I've played them as well.
And the concepts are quite amazing. On top of that...
So, are there any games coming out this year you're excited for?
Diablo 4.
Nice.
Yes.
See, I'm excited for a couple, actually, because we've got the new Legend of Zelda coming out, Tears of the Kingdom.
Yes, Tears of the Kingdom.
Then we've got the Battle Network remake coming out. I'm excited for that.
Yes.
I'm going to be spending at least 3-4 days in April when that comes out playing it. The other one is Jedi Survivor. I'm really psyched for that.
Yeah, you played Jedi Fallen Order a lot.
Yeah, I loved it, honestly. But, yeah, there's a lot of good stuff coming out this year. I'm excited for it. It's going to be a good year for gamers. It really is.
And one cool thing is, if you love Zelda and such, following the lore of what happened from Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition in the timeline to Breath of the Wild, Age of Calamity, and to this newer game. The context behind it, if you studied it a little bit, is so convoluted, but it makes so much sense when you say it.
You're talking about the theory that Hyrule Warriors is where the timelines merged, right?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, the theory about that. Yeah, I think it's the truth too, because you do get a lot of time incidents in Hyrule Warriors, so it makes sense. But either way, I'll admit I'm excited for Tears of the Kingdom.
Oh, I am too. It is going to be a beautiful game. Alright, so we got 2 minutes left. Let's check these guys. Ooh, these, let's see.
How they looking?
We're going to finish them out for the last 2 minutes. They're getting that nice little golden crisp on them. Nice little light golden hue. I know it's probably a little lighter than what you see, than what real life shows.
Yeah, but that one looks a little doughy in the middle.
Yeah, that's why we're going to let it go for the last
2 minutes and check it. Okay.
In fact, I'm going to kick it up to 4 minutes.
And just check it at 2 again?
Mm-hmm. Just that way, they're nice and done.
So, the next video I'm probably going to do is going to be a tip on how to spice up something. So, I'll go ahead and give you guys a glimpse. Can you pass it to me, my love? So, we're going to be taking something as simple as this here, this cheddar broccoli mix, in our next video. And I'm going to teach y'all how to take something simple like this and turn it into a good homemade dish that no one would believe you got out of a package. I'm going to teach y'all a few tricks to that, help y'all out with that on the next video. But I'm going to go ahead and give y'all a quick glance at that. But all in all, another game I'm actually eager for. I don't think it's coming out this year, but if it is, I'll be excited. Budokai Tenkaichi, the new release of it.
I heard you mention that. I don't think I've heard of that. There's a.
I don't think there's a release date for it.
No, but
they just teased it. Yeah, they just teased it.
Yeah. But Diablo 4 is looking very good. They've got the closest way I can kind of see it is they've got still a lot of the same mechanics and viewpoint like all the old Diablo games, like the top down.
Yeah.
Like the mobile game Diablo Immortal and Diablo 3 and such. But the cutscenes, I have gotten to see a glimpse of a cutscene from that game, and graphics are beautiful as well as
yeah,
the tales and the lore and everything. It's gonna be big.
But yeah, no, I'm excited as well, like I said, because this year looks like it's going to be a really good year for gamers. There's going to be a lot of good stuff being released. You're at 2 minutes, love. You want to go ahead and check them?
Yeah, and something you'll kind of see with the air fryer, you'll always get this where it kind of flings around the aluminum foil.
That one looks like it's breaking apart.
That kind of happens with this a little bit, always. Just because the way it spreads out. We're going to let it go 1 more minute and then pull them out.
Okay.
Just because they have to cool and such after they're done.
About how long they need to cool?
You know, honestly, that kind of depends on your preference. If you want them fully cooled and such, like, because you want them perfectly set, you'll want to wait, depending on what kind of aeration you give them and such, 10-15 minutes, make sure they're nice and cool. But if you're kind of like someone like me, who's a big chocoholic fiend, you wait till you can easily handle them and then have that gooey, nice chocolate chip cookie.
Yeah.
And that's one benefit of having them in the aluminum foil, is I can easily pull them out of the air fryer and just set them down. And putting them on a cooler surface, that heat will dissipate pretty quickly.
Yeah. Also, to anyone watching the video this year, in 2023, if there's any games y'all are excited for, be sure to leave them in the comments. I'm happy to hear what y'all think. So, like I said, this year's going to be a good year for gamers. It really is.
Okay, we're at 1 minute.
Yep. Let's go and pull them out.
And then...
Gotta get one of them little pads because we don't want to burn anything.
Yep. Just because this is always hot on the bottom.
So...
And safety tip, guys, I have a very high heat tolerance and pain tolerance, so...
Yeah, don't do what she's doing.
Yes, I can easily pick these up, so... Safety tip, don't ever do this.
Yeah. Those actually look pretty good. That one's a little busted up, but...
Yeah, but it's the one downside of doing them in air fryer, but they always turn out good. So we're just going to let these cool for a few minutes.
And then we'll try them. We'll see you guys then. Alright, guys. We've let them cool for a little bit. Now we're going to give them the old taste test.
Yeah. Slightly crisp on the outside, soft and gooey on the inside.
Yep. Perfect. Nice batch of homemade cookies. Now, if you were doing these in an oven, how would you...
I would typically go about 350, but because they would be in an oven, I would probably go for about 10 to 12 minutes, kind of like what you typically see with like even pre-made cookie doughs. The main thing I always say when it comes to cookies is you want to bake these. Ooh,
Bless you.
pardon me. Is you want to always bake your cookies according to your preference and according to,
You kind of want to watch them, right?
Yeah, because I'll put it this way. I've worked in a bakery for a little while, and a lot of the people who I was baking cookies for, they actually like their cookies softer than what we were initially told to bake them as. We were taught to bake the chocolate chip cookies, a lot crisper.
Yeah.
But I was like my cookies a little softer, both for the gooey aspect and because, gooey cookies always just taste better. So that's one other recommendation I like to things. You kind of just want to cook them depending on how firm or how soft you want them. If you want them firmer, cook them for longer. If you want them softer like I do, you just want to kind of cook them till they're a little golden on top, the edges are done, but still soft inside.
All right, guys. This is homemade cookies. And again, you can substitute any filling you want. Peanut butter, M&Ms, chocolate chips, peanut butter chips, white chocolate, whatever your preference is.
Oh yeah, that's another thing to do with this recipe. Before you add your chocolate chips, if you wanted to, you can take about a regular spoon like this, put a nice glob of peanut butter in the dough batter, and then add your toppings on that, and you have basically a good flavored peanut butter cookie on top of that.
Peanut butter chocolate chip cookie, yeah. It's kind of a base dough recipe that you can add whatever you want. We've made everything from M&M cookies to monster cookies to chocolate chip, white chocolate, milk chocolate, everything. And it's kind of up to y'all. But this is a good base cookie recipe. Any of y'all can use. And the cool thing about a lot of these recipes, you can find them on the internet. They're not hard to find, and they're really not that hard to do. Anyway, guys, I'll catch y'all later. Lunaric and Spirit signing off.
Bye.